All right, okay, thank you, Ms. Chen. I will be conducting this bilingually, okay? Ada macam some parts that we will have to, we will need to explain in Malay, just in case. All right, okay, so to open up, the school assessed marks is something that we cannot run away from at this point of the year, because the ministry has decided that due to the COVID, due to the increase in infections and whatnot, and also to ensure safety, we have to do this way, hopefully only this year. But as you can see on the screen, oops, sorry. As you can see on the screen, di sana ada the quality assurance process. Practically what you need to know lah, why we are conducting this, and then there are parts of SAM that you will need to be informed on. So we just need to ensure that there's transparency between parents, the school, and Ministry of Education, so that you are not left in the dark as to what is happening to your children's results and how they are going to be doing and progress, and how they are going to be progressed from now herein, okay, leading up to the secondary education. Okay, so the rationale there, to give parents and students the confidence and fairness of their results. So practically, we need to reassure you that what we are doing, well, what ministry is doing, is going to be totally fair and completely unbiased, okay? And then to minimize the risk of the Department of Education, the DE, have to engage with you in further rounds of review. So what that means is that in order for us to submit all these marks throughout the year by your children, we have to make sure that they are fair, number one. Number two, they are true, and they have not been tampered with. Okay, so us as teachers, as well you as parents, will have to work together in order to make sure that these marks are the true marks of your children based on their capabilities. Because if there are any tampering, okay, the Department of Education or Ministry of Education, they will come to us. They will come to us, and then they will have to. They will ask us to redo everything, and then they will ask for evidences and whatnot, and then there will be more red tapes for us to go through. Okay, to minimize inquiry of results from students and parents to schools and Department of Examination. So practically, what I just mentioned, we want to minimize the inquiries made by the Department of Education. In the case of fairness and whatnot. Okay. Bear in mind, we will have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have questions anytime during the presentation, you can write them down or just note them down somewhere, so you can ask us later at the end. All right, so why do we need to talk to the parents as well as the students? Okay, so let's look at the box in the left there, the green box. To inform the evidence used for SAM, school assessed marks, student understand the approach to determine their school assessed marks, and then explain how choice of evidence is in line with requirement in the guidelines. So practically, the whole reason why we are doing this morning is to be transparent with you, as I said, and then also to tell you how and where these marks for PSR are going to be derived from. The don'ts, of course, as directed by MOE, we cannot tell the students the marks that they have allocated, that we have allocated to every piece of evidence. So whatever marks that we have allocated or assigned to your child or to you, the students, we will not, our hands are tied. We cannot divulge that. We cannot reveal that, because the teachers are made to sign the OSA, the Oath of Secrecy Act. Okay. So kalau kami reveal, we'll go to jail, and we don't want to go to jail. All right. Okay, so let's look at the diagram there. And then in the speech bubbles, you can see some of the areas that we need to touch on. Delivery of any access arrangements, choice of evidence in the student's portfolio, application, special consideration, for example, being sick or being involved in an accident. All right, so practically those are the things that we have to take into consideration when it comes to giving them marks and allocating marks and whatnot. So delivery of any access arrangements, practically for students yang ada apa ni orang disadvantages macam I don't know, say a blind student. If we have a blind student in class, how did we provide the student with how did we approach giving marks by being fair? So practically macam bagi dorang braille exam and whatnot, yeah, and the sort lah. And choice of evidence in the student's portfolio. So practically we will talk about that later in the next few slides, or probably in the next slide, how we are going to be doing that. And then the application of special consideration, sickness, accident. So say ada students yang damam during an assessment, ataupun ada students yang tidak dapat hadir masa exam one day, and then kalau itu markahnya nada for us to collect untuk examiner. We will have the student to sit for the same exam online, and then tapi they can only sit for the exam online if nada evidence lain untuk kami ambil. So what that means is that we cannot just simply ask a student to sit for an exam for a paper that she was absent for. Selagi ada evidence lain, macam assessment January sampai March, for example, ia ada. Tapi April yang ada, May, June yang ada. So we cannot ask the student to sit for April, May, June saja just because you're absent. We have to use January, February, March. Okay, so it's not a case of, but my child can potentially score better in the May exam because it was easier, for example, that we cannot do because evidence yang lain sudah ada. All right. Okay, must keep records discussion with students about choice of evidence to determine the school assessments. Okay. All right. All right. So in this next slide, we will see how the marks are going to be tabulated. All right, so markah PSR dorang the end result, okay, for every subject atau at the end grade ataupun marks for every subject will be taken macam mana. Okay, the calculation macam mana. So the first one is the end of year examination from 2020 punya markah. So masa dorang year 5, those marks are going to be a fraction ataupun a percentage of the marks that they acquired in the end of your exam in 2020 will be added on to the rest of the components, okay, of B and C. So that's A, the first part, end of year exams 2020. And then the second component is R, actually, SBA of MIB project, as well as the SBA of MCT mathematics. Okay, so SBA of MIB and SBA of MCT itu sekolah yang dapat provide ke MOE because markah-markah itu sudah kena masukkan earlier this year because those exams have already been done. Okay, except for MIB, which the students did during the work from home ataupun during the home learning punya situation, but those marks we can assure you that those marks are secured and they have already been submitted to MOE. All right, and then C, this is the school's part. Okay, A sama C baru the school punya area. C is I think we are all aware, okay, parents and students, that throughout the year there have been monthly assessments. Yeah, monthly assessments that the student have sat for to test their knowledge about on what they have learned throughout that month. And then all these papers were set in the format of PSR anyway. So every assessment paper that we set was in PSR format. Okay, so dalam semua assessments yang kita ni buat sepanjang tahun ni, 2 of those assessment papers will be used untuk mengaccumulate markah dorang for PSR. Okay, so for example, January student ani dapat, okay, let's just make the calculation easy. So January ia dapat 100%. And then kali sudah tu in May ia dapat 100% juga. We will choose out of macam dari January sampai before tadi home learning atau punya assessment. So I think it was from January sampai July punya assessments. We will choose 2 of those papers. We will select 2 of the best papers from the students, and then kali sudah tu we will include them as 2 evidences to tabulate together with B and A to make up for the total markah yang dorang dapat at the end of the year as their true PSR result. Okay, we'll talk more about this in the next slide. Okay, so evidences ni dari mana kami dapat, ataupun where are we allowed to gather all these marks from? Okay, there are 2 types of substantial work. Okay, and there bukan 2 types. There are 4 types of substantial work, and then from each substantial work in it, or substantial work, I will refer to substantial work as evidence. From 4 types of substantial work in it, we will take 2 pieces of work at the center's discretion. Atau artinya we cannot tell you which papers, but we will pick 2 pieces of work ataupun 2 assessments that the children have set for throughout the year, based on asalkan they follow these 4 different types. Okay, so the first one, assessment or test examination using a complete past examination question paper according to the number of subject components. So practically all the assessment papers that we have set for, they fall here. Okay, so sekolah Jigsaw Primary School have the most collection of substantial work are type 1, assessment atau test examination using complete past examination question paper. All right, number 2, combination of questions taken from previous PSR question papers. So what that means is that we are also allowed to add up markah from different papers, okay, and then tamu-tamukan mana satu markah yang paling tinggi. Macam for example section A tinggi, dapat 10 markah, and then paper 2019 section B-nya lagi tinggi, so I take section B 2019, and then say 2016 section C-nya tinggi, so I take that. So I can mix and match. All right, mana yang tinggi itu, I will put them together. All right, so that's example number 2, combination of questions. Number 3, mock exam question papers. Okay, for the mock exam question papers, if we were to do it in school last time, then it would have been valid, but it is not valid anymore because mock exams, sama first trial and second trial, were done during the home learning situation. So MOE indah dapat, they will not allow us to use those because again, if we were to conduct online examinations, those examinations will have to follow certain guidelines ataupun strict guidelines as set by MOE. So one of the guidelines yang kena bagi tahu was the student yang sit for the online exams ni, during the whole duration of that paper, ia mesti kena rakam from multiple cameras, atas, bawah, depan, belakang, just to make sure ia indah meniru. And then exactly at the time when the paper ends, I think ada allocated time of like a few minutes, the student mesti seal the paper in an envelope yang indah dapat dibuka. Kalau sudah tu terus bagi other parent, and then those papers must be returned to school immediately or something like that. So the guidelines are quite are quite complicated and difficult to work around with. So I think number 3 itu the school indah dapat pilih mock exam ya. And then number 4, a combination of topical test papers. Okay, topical test papers, we don't really do topical test papers because, like I said, every month we have our own sets of every month we have our own assessments, and then all of those assessments are based on complete PSR format anyway. So we don't really do macam topic per topic. Okay. So in school, in Jigsaw, practically what applies are the first one and the second one, the assessment, monthly assessment, some other combination of questions. Okay. All right, so if you look at the small paragraph on the left, the bottom left, at least one evidence must be within the content and as broad a range as possible assessment objectives of the relevant syllabus. So practically, in a simpler way, what it means is that evidence yang kami pilih itu mesti cover semua questions yang PSR bagi. So mesti follow PSR format, that's what it means. All right, the green box, the substantial work must fulfill the criteria that is within the content or learning objectives and assessments objectives of the relevant syllabus. So again, equal PSR format, and then whatever the lesson objectives yang mesti kena achieve for that specific subject, okay? Yang ia punya knowledge lah, the knowledge coverage. All right, next. So this is an example of a portfolio for assessment ataupun monthly assessments yang apply to us using a complete past examination question paper according to the number of subject components. Okay, so example 1, ini one evidence saja ya. For example, Bahasa Melayu, we have 2 papers for Bahasa Melayu, and then so artinya kalau ada 2 paper artinya ada 2 komponen. So kalau satu paper satu komponen. Alright, so one subject, to make it easier, one subject ada 2 evidence, tapi one subject punya paper, dia punya maksudnya di sini dia punya tahun kah ataupun the month when the paper was set for is one evidence. So macam Bahasa Melayu assessment in March, ada 2 papers ya, paper 1 and paper 2. So that is considered as one evidence. And then Bahasa Melayu punya assessment in June. Say we want to select March and June. So June will be the second evidence. All right. So altogether there are 4 components. All right. So paper 1, sekiranya kalau okay, we know that paper 1 for Bahasa Melayu is out of 50. So kalau student itu dapat 30, we will forward 30 markah. Paper 2, 100 marks. Out of 100 marks, kali 90 marks ia dapat, then we will forward 90 marks. Alright. Okay, so any combination of questions, the one that applies to us juga, as I said earlier, the evidence yang Jigsaw dapat bagi, yang valid, are assessment sama combination of questions. So this is the second example. This is for combination of questions taken from previous PSR question papers. So this is example. This is the example, yeah. For English, okay, macam Bahasa Melayu tadi, we have 2 papers, so artinya ada 2 components. Alright. Okay, so kalau tadi pakai assessment, it's 1 bulan punya assessment itu tadi ambil secara lamsam lah macam tu. It's the whole paper that we are taking. Okay, so sama. Kalau 2018 punya past year paper sekiranya kami ambil, so artinya 2018 punya paper 1 sama paper 2 kami pakai markahnya. But for combination of questions, it's different sedikit. We can choose per sections. Okay, so we look at paper 1. Like I said today, what I said earlier about getting higher marks ataupun the best marks out of specific sections. So we will look at paper 1. For paper 1, section A-nya paling tinggi are 2013. So we did the drive-through recently. So the reason why we asked for all those papers were to be returned was for this reason, so that we can actually check all of your children's papers and then cari mana markah paling tinggi and then ditamu-tamukan. So section A, markahnya paling tinggi masa paper 2013, past year paper 2013 for example. Kali section B markahnya paling tinggi arah past year paper 2016. So I can mix and match cuma tu so that your children will get the best possible mark for this PSR, okay, for paper 1. And then sama jo paper 2, section A, section B, section C, section C. As you can see, the years are different. But those papers chosen bukannya the whole paper, it's just section dorang saja yang ambil. Marks yang paling bisai lah, paling tinggi. So itu yang ditemukan. So that is Am I co-hosting? Yes. Only the host can share this. All right, okay, sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened, but okay. I think I'll just go back to this, yeah? I'll go back to this. I'll just explain this one more time because I got disconnected for some reason. All right, anyway, so this is the slide to show how a subject can be taken as an evidence, okay? Tadi, as I mentioned earlier, JPS has two modes for providing evidences. The first one, your assessment and test examination, and then the second one, the combination of questions. So this is an example of how a complete past examination question paper can be used as an evidence for every subject. Okay, so for example bahasa Melayu, bahasa Melayu ada paper 1, paper 2. So kirakan paper 1, paper 2 tu paper 1 is one component, paper 2 is one component. So together they are two components. So since tani ambil one bahasa Melayu paper, for example, from 2018, so that is considered as one evidence. Okay, and then kali sudah tu tani ambil two components lagi from 2016, for example, that makes up one more evidence. So altogether 2018 and 2016 will be two evidences. All right. So paper 1, as we know, markahnya out of 50. So kalau kanak-kanak itu dapat 30 marks, then we will forward 30 marks to as part of the calculation. And then 90 marks out of 100, then we will forward 90 marks to be calculated together juga as part of the evidence. All right, next, the combination of questions. So this is the second example that the school can give as part of the evidence. English, for the English papers, as we know macam bahasa Melayu juga, English papers ada two papers. So that means there are two components. Different from the monthly bukan monthly assessments. Different from the past year paper tadi ataupun monthly assessments, yes. Kalau macam tadi yang monthly assessments ataupun past year paper tu, we take the year punya components. So 2018 paper 1, paper 2 semua kami ambil jadi markah dorang. But for the combination of questions, ia lain sikit. Ia different past year papers ataupun different monthly assessments, we will pick which section yang paling besar markahnya, and then kalau sudah tahu markah-markahnya dicampur together. Okay, so for example paper 1, for example paper 1 section A. So in 2013 the student punya section A paling tinggi out of all the past year papers. Okay, so section A dari 2013 itu yang akan kami ambil. And then in section B, for section B, papernya di past year paper 2016 paling lawa markahnya, for example di sana. So section B itu yang kami ambil markahnya. So mana satu, whichever section yang paling tinggi from all of the papers that the student has sat for, itu yang akan kami ambil. Okay, so this way it is to ensure that every child is given the complete fairness of being awarded their PSR marks. So paper 2 sama juga. Past year paper 2013 section yang paling tinggi, section A kami ambil. 2015 B, 2016 C, 2018 D. So it's a compilation of different past year papers ataupun a compilation of different monthly assessment papers following the PSR format. Punya markah itu yang paling tinggi itu tah yang akan kami ambil. Okay, so okay. Sorry. Okay, so it's different. Nampak bezanya lah between the first time complete pass examination question paper and also the combination of questions. All right, okay, so this is how the final marks are going to be calculated for PSR. Okay, as you can see, for all of the 5 subjects, semua markah dorang yang dorang dapat masa examination, end of year examination in 2020, the complete SBA, bukan SBE ya, just SBA, the pure and raw mark yang dorang dapat for every subject, 20% will be calculated. 20% of the total marks will be added onto the final papers, bukan final papers. 20% of those marks will be added onto the whole calculation of the papers. So for example, MIB, 20% from end of year, 30% from the project that they did recently, and then 50% only from the 2 evidences yang the school has chosen. Okay, and then for Bahasa Melayu, 20% from end of year last year, and then 80% from 2 evidences chosen by the school. Maths 20% from end of year, and then 10% of MCT yang the student sat for earlier this year, and then 70% only from assessment papers ataupun past year examination papers yang kena ambil markahnya. And then English language 20%, 80%, science 20%, 80%. So for the 3 subjects, Malay, English, and science, it's quite straightforward. The calculation is 20 plus 80 to make up for the total of 100%. All right. And then yang lain senang saja, MIB sama mathematics, pasal dorang ada their own individual projects. Bukan projects. One of them is a project, and then the other one is an MCT. All right. So this is just to show you the flow of whatever is happening in the background. Okay, so step 1, the Department of Education receives marks from school. Okay, the schools will submit the marks on the mark submission system. There is going to be a proper template, and then not just that, we are also required to write a report on why the marks were given. Why the marks were given as such, and then how did we mark those papers and whatnot. So it's not going to be macam saja-saja bagi markah. We will also assess and then provide a very detailed report to MOE. Kenapa markah-markah ini kena ambil. So MOE will filter all of that, and then they will also check kalau sekiranya guru-guru ini ataupun sekolah-sekolah ketanian ini macam ada membagi markah itu lebih dia macam kirakan cheating. So they will know, they will check. Kalau sekiranya ada markah tu kena bagi, macam they will consider as cheating. They think ataupun they assume, they might suspect that that tampering of marks is involved. Then they will interrogate us. They will ask for more evidence so that they will see sama ada markah tu consistent ke tidak. Itu kalau markah lebih. Kalau markah rendah, yes, MOE will also moderate that. If they think that we have been marking too strictly, for example, macam sekiranya student ini papernya kena penalize harshly, ataupun markahnya lebih rendah daripada apa yang patut student ini dapat, then MOE will also investigate us, and then they will ask us kenapa markah ini rendah, and then they will ask for more evidence, and then they will potentially ask us to tinggikan markah itu. And then, as you know, throughout the year, just before the mock papers, how the school has been marking the papers have been very strict. Okay, so that's why the marks earlier this year were quite rendah. All right, this is just the method of the school. Awal-awal tu andang the school memang very strict to marking, especially when it comes to my okay, I know for my subject I will penalize for everything that the students in the buat. Okay, so for example punctuations, capital letters and everything itu pun I will deduct marks. But in PSR, of course there are strict teachers and whatnot, but then after the marking process there will be a moderation process. So sama jua prosesnya di sini. Those marks will be moderated, and then if they think that those marks are in the fair, then they will do something about it. They will adjust the marks. All right. So only starting from mock exam onwards, barutah sekolah, specifically our school, barutah kami marking atau indah lagi se-strict dulu. And then that's why the jump in results are evident in the mock first trial and second trial papers. All right, so after the Department of Education receives the marks from schools, the next process will be them asking for requests, them requesting evidence from schools. So lapas membagi markah, dorang akan meminta evidence yang kami telah kumpul. So bukan saja membagi markah yang kami bagi ini, kami akan men-scan all those pictures. Of the papers, I mean, we will scan the papers and then we will forward them together with the marks as evidence. So that's why those papers are called evidence. Okay. Selected syllabus for initial sampling and then selected candidates work. Okay. Ini walaupun selected candidates work, tapi semua ampit, and then they are only saying selected candidates work because of the inquiry and everything. Kalau sekiranya dorang akan melihat the benchmark. Something like that. All right. And then number 3, assessment review with the evidence. Assessment reviews the evidence. Yeah. Okay. Assessment reviewer review. Okay. Assessment reviewer review the evidence. Okay. Yes, that makes more sense. The evidence of candidates work. So what it means here? Assessment reviewer review the evidence. Artinya, all those evidence that have been submitted by the school to MOE will check all those papers, whatever evidences that we have submitted, they will check one by one. Kali sudah tu, they will moderate, as I said, and then they will see whether it's fair or not. So all of this will fall here. Ada number 3, assessment review the evidence of the candidate's work, the marks awarded to each piece of evidence. The SS's report for the syllabus. Okay, as I mentioned, we are also required to write reports for every child and then for every subject. The overall SBA submitted on the mark submission system. So the mark submission system itu ada its own format. And then also the reviewers will decide whether the marks are reasonable and consistent with, number 1, the guidance, whatever that they have set earlier behind the scenes. And then the level of candidate performance demonstrated in the evidence, and also whether it aligns with the assessment objectives and syllabus. So practically, this is why the PSR format has to be followed. The evidences mesti ikut PSR format. Pasal kalau membagi evidence yang indah ikut PSR format, then kira invalid because ia indah consistent with the national standard, because every other school will be submitting papers. And then, yes, so practically, yeah, everything has to follow the PSR format in order for it to be consistent. All right, post review and then outcome of the assessment reviewer. All right, assessment reviewer reviews the evidence as reasonable. The Department of Education will not contact school again. So what that means is that kalau sekiranya the evidence given is just, number one, consistent, and then also valid, then no more questions will be asked to the schools. They will leave us alone, they will leave you alone, and they will leave the students alone. So that means markah-markah tani are valid, and then they are safe to be tabulated and tabulated for the final results. And sekiranya kalau assessment reviewer find the marks are not reasonable, so kalau sekiranya markah itu terlalu tinggi ataupun terlalu rendah, for example, the Department of Education will contact the school to submit additional evidence. For example, homework, classwork, and monthly tests. You have given your candidates within 3 days. So what they're saying is that kalau sekiranya one paper tu mengajuk tinggi for no reason, ataupun ia rasa indah matching dengan the standard, the Brunei standard or the standard of the school, then they will check. And then they will compare that paper, that particular evidence, with all of the other papers that the child has sat for. All right. And then this is why it is important for us to include in the assessor's report that we have to say throughout the year, until mock exam, all of the papers have been marked strictly. It's just a method of the school, so that there are no questions asked on our side. Because if we provide that, then they will see that, okay, it's true. Earlier in the year, throughout the year, the marks were low, pasal the school marks strictly. And then they will see the perubahan from mock first trial and second trial because the papers were more leniently marked. Okay? And then the Department of Education will then moderate in accordance to the submission of additional evidence. Okay, so lapas kena inquire apa tu, then they will repeat the process of number 3. Okay, kalau sekiranya number 3 itu repeat, then it will go back to number 4. Kalau number 4 masih fail, then back to number 3. Okay, so it's going to be continuous. If selagi the Department of Education rasa the evidence given itu indah selari dengan apa yang whatever that's needed lah. Alright, and then finally results day, number 5. Results will only be released provided that school has completed and passed the quality assurance checks on time. So it does not only depend on our school alone, Jigsaw Primary School, it depends on every school in Brunei. So walaupun sekiranya Jigsaw Primary School pass sudah number 3 atau no more questions asked, it doesn't mean that other schools pass sudah. So we still have to wait for every school in Brunei to have passed the quality assurance punya stage, so that results can be processed together and released at the same time, macam biasa. If the school or candidates want to dispute the grades issued on results day, this will go through inquiry of results processes. Okay, so sekiranya kalau ada markah lagi, macam sekiranya sekolah, macam for example, Jigsaw Primary School is not happy about, sekiranya the marks are not fair, and then if we feel that markah-markah itu terus mengajuk rendah tinggi, compared to what we have given in our submission, then the school can contest. Okay, so that's a whole different process. All right, so I think that is all. We are going to open the floor for a question and answering session. You can ask questions to myself or Ms. Chin. All right, you can. Okay, so there are questions here. All right. I will read them out and then I will answer the questions as we go. So please, if you have more questions that you would like to ask about, please type them in on chat, and then Teacher Edwin can record them, and then I will just answer them as we go, yeah? All right, first question, Supriladi asks, are we talking about papers or tests that have been done before COVID, or those that the students sent via online since August 2021? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, Only papers that were done between January to July and valid, because mock exam, first trial and second trial, are considered invalid because they were done at home. We did not know about this because mock exam and first trial were done before. Actually, all of the papers, first trial and mock were done before the announcement of the SAM, before the announcement of SAM, so we weren't aware of it. And then kali sudah tu on, I think just a day before or a day after of the first trial, of the second trial, we found out of then SAM ni kena announce. And then during the meeting with MOE, the conference with MOE, we found out that any exams done online are considered invalid because ketakutan macam ada meniru, ada help from parents, help from siblings, ataupun since they're sitting for those papers online, they can easily access Google. So Google can just give them answers and whatnot. Okay, so that's why those papers are invalid sudah. So we're looking at January assessment to July assessment together with the past year papers that the students have sat for. All right, the booklets. Okay, Dawish asks, what about the grade threshold? Is it decided by the school or MOE? Okay, grade threshold, it's MOE. Okay, so kami kena bagi, what we are giving are only marks. Okay, it's different compared to O levels because O levels, dorang SAG, school assessed grades. But for us, year 6, MOE tukar ke school assessed marks. So kalau O level, A level, dorang bagi A, B, C, macam tu. But for us, tadi bagi marks, the numbers. All right. So and then after the reviewing process, I think phase 3 after all of that is completed, they will be moderate. They will have their own calculations lagi in the background, and then they will have their own benchmark and threshold dari sana. So we will not know. So sekiranya a student di sini, this is just an example. So for example, a student gets 80% lah, okay, for an exam for English. Let's just use my subject, English. So a student acquires 84% for a paper, for example. That's a calculation of the end of year. Sama the two evidences. Ia dapat 80%. Usually in school, in Jigsaw, 85% will be the A yang tadi dapatkan. And then usually PSR A pulang jatuh, 85%. That's a standard threshold lah. But because of all of this, issues with SAM and whatnot, every year, the threshold will be changed. So kalau sekiranya pasal exam, pasal markas cuma ini kena ambil, bukannya true exam, maybe say MOE decided to rendahkan the threshold. So ia cakapnya, okeynya, 80 is the threshold for A, bukan lagi 85. So that child will get an A because the threshold itu kena rendahkan. Alright? Okay, I hope that answers the question. So if I, in a way, did not answer your question, please ask again so I can be more helpful and I can be clearer with it. Yeah. Okay, Maisha asks, there will be no more online assessment anymore and we will just be waiting for results for SMS. Correct. There will be no more exams. Okay. As for now, the school is since a few days ago, the school has been busy collecting the evidence sudah, and we are now in the process of selecting which papers ataupun which sections yang the best for every child. Okay, so there are no more exams. To be honest with you, we already prepared 2 more papers sebenarnya. We prepared for another mock exam following the guidelines of MOE. And then we also prepared another pre-PSR paper following the guidelines of MOE for online exams. Because already masa the first meeting, dorang cakap we could conduct another exam. We could conduct more exams online, asalkan following the MOE guidelines. So that was when Ms. Chin decided to buat more exams so that we could use those marks, which would be potentially be better as part of Seminate. But then after the second meeting, the second conference with MOE, they told us, okay, indah jadi The only time when you can do the online exam is, as I said tadi, yang ada special considerations itu. Kalau ada student yang absent and whatnot. Tapi of course yang student absent itu mesti ada notice and ada notice black and white from hospital or from mana, a formal notice, and then that's condition number 1. Condition number 2, that child can only be allowed to sit for another for another exam bracket online if the child, him or herself, does not have any other evidences that the school can choose from. Okay, so in our situation, we have no students like that. All of our students have sat for the papers. Okay, are they miss out a few, but they still have other evidences that we can choose from. All right, so yes, so we are not going to be sitting for any exams. We will just be waiting. So from now, we're just going to be waiting for results. Yeah. All right. Afik's mom asks. Okay, just so you know, I'm just reading all these messages from Teacher Edwin on my WhatsApp. Okay, Afik's mom asks, will these sections or combination papers be different for each child or student? Yes. Okay. So every child, Inda sama tu, ia punya papers kena pilihkan. Okay, Inda consistent. For example, tadi ada 45 students. So if we have 45 students, kiranya student number 1 is Aisyah, ya. So Aisyah kena pilihkan 2018. If we were to follow the first example, the combination past year papers, it doesn't mean number 2, 3, 4, 5 sampai 45 follow Aisyah punya paper 2018. No. As we said, in order for us to be fair, we have to select the best marks and the best papers for every single child. So kalau sekiranya Aisyah handal dari 2018, then we will give Aisyah 2018. Kalau sekiranya Afik handal in past year in assessment March, then we will pilih March, something like that. Okay, so it will not be consistent for every child. Okay, Othman asks, what's the students need? What's the students need to do now for the SAM? Okay, if I understand that correctly, I will answer it. I will answer this lah. Maybe what's the students needs? Maybe what do the students need to do now, Kala? So right now, the students don't have to do anything in regards to PSR, because there is nothing that the student can do for the time being to influence their marks in PSR, because the marks yang sudah dorang set, yang the papers that they have already set for are going to be the standardized the standardized allocations of marks that we are going to be taking from. So after this, there are no more exams, there are no more tests, because there's no point in doing so. Okay, so maybe there will be lessons. I'm not sure about that. That is something that that will be decided by Ms. Chin. But sekiranya ada classes masih, we will inform you soon. But for the time being, as for PSR, there's nothing that that the students can do lah. Okay.
Unless correct.
Okay. Maisha, salah. Okay, Maisha lagi sekali. Maisha asks, did MOE explain the rationale of using last year's results? Okay. Unfortunately, no. Okay, so those were one of the things that we were shocked about, that we were quite surprised about when they announced that marks from end of year exam 2020 will be used as part of the calculation. So I have nothing further to say, because that was not explained. It was just dropped onto us like that, 20% from end of year. If you feel that it is unfair, I can assure you that we feel that as well. We don't think that the marks of 2020 itu macam relevant to be included, because at the end of the day, it should be the efforts of the students in year 6. All right, especially sudah hujung-hujung tahun ini. Okay, Othman asks, would there be any more assessments for students? No more assessments, unless magically at a press conference, MOE cakap, okay, online exams for SAM can be done. Lagi sekali, then we will definitely do that. But until they say that, we will not be doing any more exams. Okay. Aisha asks, will your teacher recorrect balik the papers that you have marked, just in case there was wrongly counted marks or strict marking, specifically maths, you can get extra marks from their workings, right? Okay, so again, like we said, we are not just simply memilih-milih, we are also going through the marks macam, you know, sekiranya ada marks yang unfairly given. And then usually during corrections, after every paper tu dorang sudah buat, a few days after the papers have been marked, we will go through corrections. And then during corrections, we will make corrections di sana. Kalau sudah tu, kalau ada salah, the students will come. Okay, for example, my subject, I will ask the students to tell me which part yang salah marked, and then I will adjust their marks accordingly. And then for maths, I think they do the same as well. Again, the teachers will check those marks again. Kalau rasanya marks satu terlampau rendah ke apa, we will make adjustments. Don't worry. Pengiran Amirul asks, when is the due date for the marks to be submitted to MOE? We are not allowed to divulge ataupun tell you that. Tapi very, very soon. That's why we are working hard to gather all the evidence right now. But that is going to be done very, very soon. Yeah. They keep asking if we can conduct an okay. So again, no exam, yeah. Let me just say that. All right. Okay. Supiladi lagi sikit. Supiladi asks once again, adakah apa yang boleh dibuat oleh Jigsaw from January to July sama dengan sekolah lain seluruh negara? Yes, that's fine and consistent. If not similar, then consistency is the question. Adakah, hold on, let me just read this again. Adakah apa yang boleh dibuat oleh Jigsaw from January to July sama dengan sekolah lain seluruh negara? If yes, that's fine and consistent. If not similar, then consistency is the question. All right. Okay. So I think we all agree that the standard of private schools, as compared to when compared to the standard of government schools, private schools lagi tinggi. So I think we're not saying that just because I'm saying that. I think it's a well-known fact that private school results, end-of-year results, not just from PSR but other private exams, have shown to have apa ni orang to release better results. Okay. So that's number one. And why is that? Why? It's because government exams, they strictly follow, okay, for most government schools, they strictly follow the what's the first term sama mid-term, end of term punya exam atau something like that. And then kalau sudah tu adalah topical questions, topical tests and whatnot. But as for Jigsaw, as for private schools, I mean, as for Jigsaw, we buat exams or brackets, assessments every month. Okay, so that means that we have a better coverage of more evidences to get from. Okay, that's number one. And then I'm not sure about other private schools, but maybe one private school that I know of, I will not mention the name of the private school, but one private school that I know of, dorang inda buat monthly assessments, like how Jigsaw is doing it. So dorang again macam government, dorang buat first term, mid term, apa tu jua. So if we're worried about the consistency, I agree that there is a degree of inconsistency, but I will look at that more positively in a way that it places Jigsaw Primary School in a better seat because we have more evidences to gather from and to work from. So at the end of the day, it is for the benefit of our children, of our students, I mean, and your children, because alhamdulillah we have many of these evidences to collect to compare the marks from lah. Okay. Mia asks, are the marks obtained by the paper submitted to Jigsaw or taken from school records. Some papers are not submitted, reason being couldn't find it or lose it. Kindly advise. Okay. This is the reason why we ask for the papers to be returned to school, because in my previous slide I mentioned that every mark yang kami bagi, kami mesti provide evidence. So we cannot just give marks to MOE. So every mark yang kami bagi, we have to provide an evidence, a scan of those papers. So kalau mark saja kena bagi tapi no scans of papers, then those marks are invalid. So that's why we ask for those papers back, because they don't mean anything if we just submit the marks. All right. Yeah. And then apa lagi tu? Kalau papers yang lost itu, unfortunately we cannot do anything about them, because once those papers are lost, then there are no evidences for us to use. Okay. We cannot just bagi mereka. So for example, macam again, I'm going to give an example of a past year paper, bukan past year paper, monthly assessment paper. Okay, those papers were the students were asked to file those papers every time they receive the papers correct. So there has been a situation where a student India filed those papers, kali many of those papers missing. So masa drive-through day, only ia bagi 1 month punya paper saja. Unluckily, unfortunately, yang paper dibaginya tu bukan markahnya yang paling tinggi, tapi markahnya yang paling tinggi masa arah ke papers yang hilang. So too bad, we cannot do anything about that because the evidence has been lost. Okay. All right. Osman says, wish Miss Helen and the JPS teachers all the best. Thank you. This is a hard job for the school, definitely, and hope the JPS students pass with flying colors. I mean. Baru Osman is okay. Muhammad Bazli asks if we can have the slides. Yes, you can have the slides for this. Ani yang slides yang I shared are the slides yang kena share masa the second meeting, conference with MOE, and then they said the second slides ani boleh di share. Okay. Except for yang the first one, yang okay ada this slide, ani sepatutnya indah boleh di share. Tapi masa the second meeting, they said boleh share, pasal yang the first one kena bagi tu ada the dates di atas satu. Bila di receive mark, bila di request evidence, bila result keluar. So ada the dates di sana. So itu yang indah boleh di share. Tapi ani kena adjust oleh MOE, so orang cakap ani boleh kena share sudah. Right? Yes, you can have the slides, yeah. You can freely take the slides and then for your record kah apa. Maisha, how about last year's exam papers? MOE does not need them. Okay, for end of year exam, indah payah. Itu understood sudah. I think it is well understood, and it is. I think MOE is also aware of the fact that those papers have been potentially lost sudah. Pasal batas sudah kan from last year. So yeah, atu indah payah, atu markah saja. So atu directly from the progress, atu directly from the school office. Okay, so just dari progress report dorang lah. We still have a record of that in school, so we will ambil dari sana saja. Okay, Mia asks, will parents be allowed to view marks submitted to school? No. Oh wait, will parents be allowed to view marks submitted to school? To MOE, you mean? Okay, kalau to MOE, no, we cannot tell you. We cannot tell you which evidence ataupun which papers we have chosen, okay? Because it will potentially in a way bagi tahu the result of your child's PSR. But what we can share is that is for you to be comforted of the fact that we will choose the best marks. That is what the school promises. We will choose the best marks that your child has garnered over the past year. Itu sajalah that we can tell. We cannot tell you which specific paper we have chosen. Yeah. Rice asks, does MOE plan to give results in time to apply for secondary school? Okay. That is beyond us. I cannot answer that, but I guess we will find out in due time, because that is not something that that is also shared with us lah. Okay. Sekiranya kalau ada processes lagi apa macam application to secondary school and whatnot, I'm sure MOE will give us some directive on how to go about that. So we will just wait for that. And once we have received news regarding that, we will disseminate the information to you accordingly. Okay, Maisha, are we allowed to know when to expect results? No, we cannot tell you that. Like I said, there is a specific date for it, ataupun there's a time frame for the results to be released. But then at the same time, if we were to look at this slide here, number 3 and 4, okay, 3, 4, 5. So hari itu ada results yang kena bagi tahu ni. Tapi as I said, 3 and 4 ani will be consistently happening. Okay, 3 and 4. Not hopefully Jopalis lah, not our school, but then it is expected for schools to be going through this process. So makin lama 3 and 4 aku repeat, makin lama dorang juggle, then the result day will be further ganjakan. Sorry, yeah, ganjakan. Okay, it will be delayed. Afik's mom asks, kalau sekiranya telah berjumpa papers yang hilang, bolehkah dihantar? Boleh. Kalau ada, hantar. Okay, so we are giving you this chance. If you find those lost papers at home, just send them to us. Yeah, but call us first. Okay, so because we are not letting anyone enter, even our teachers pun indah boleh enter. Indah boleh enter senang suka hati. They cannot enter the school at their own convenience. In their own convenience. Okay, so please tell us. And then since you are asking bila if kita terjumpa the papers yang hilang di rumah, we will give you a deadline for when to pass these papers because right now we also have our own deadline when to submit all of these papers. So can we ask you to return those papers by the 20th of by the end of this month? We will give you until the end of this month. Okay, the last day of this month to find all those missing papers and return to us. Okay. Sorry. Okay, next question. Thank you for the thorough explanation, Mr. Macha. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Rice asks, if JPS has not contacted us regarding missing assessment papers, are we to assume that none are missing? Okay, good question. If JPS has not contacted us regarding missing assessment papers, are we to assume that none are missing? Itu artinya you are good to go. Okay, you are good to go. As I said, we will maximize the marks that your child has accumulated. So kalau sekiranya ada paper yang lebih tinggi yang hilang, we will contact you. Tapi sekiranya paper yang hilang atau paper yang indah tinggi, yang arah kami ada sudah yang tinggi. So we will not ask for the paper yang markahnya rendah.
Okay. Ask them to submit so that we'll see.
It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, so that's that. Anything else? Hajar Biden says, hearing that there are missing evidence, I do hope the school admin to be more considerate, compassionate with marks. Okay, we will try our best, as I said, but at the end of the day, these marks will be moderated by MOE. So kalau sekiranya those marks kena tinggikan ataupun kena rendahkan, MOE will still moderate those. And then what we are trying to avoid right now is to avoid the inquiry process. Okay, stage 4 though. We want this transition and then this process to be as smooth as possible. All right. But yes, we will, like I said, we will scan dulu markah-markah tu. Kami indah akan memasukkan markah yang kami dapat sudah tu macam 100% taros apa from the records that we have. We will also check balik. Yeah. Atia asks, it would be helpful if the subject teacher can specifically tell us which past paper they are looking for. Okay, we cannot do that, because if we tell you which past paper we are looking for, then that is indirectly, actually bukan indirectly, that is directly telling you which paper we are aiming for untuk masukkan arah your child's punya evidence. So we cannot do that. Cuma ni saja. Let me just say this. If you have not been contacted to return papers, then you are fine. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we are currently collecting evidence and whatnot. Tapi markah-markah itu sebenarnya sudah kami allocate. Okay, it's about 90% siap. I can say that we are 90% done with the collection of marks and everything. So if you have not been contacted, then you are okay. We have managed to find the best marks for your children. All right. Have the marks been calculated? Have the marks calculated so far reflect our child's true capabilities? Okay, now this is a tricky question. Like I said, and like what Miss Helen Chin said earlier, the marks of your children throughout January and July do not reflect their true capabilities, because their capabilities were only shown
after the mock exam.
Were only shown on a numerical value, the marks from mock exam first trial and second trial paper. Why? Because January to July, the papers were marked very strictly. So mock first and mock papers, some of the two trial papers, the marks were not marked as strictly. So that's why the marks. Kali sudah tu, the marks better show the true capabilities of your children. Okay, and then of course throughout the learning, the home learning process, we have given many revision sessions just sudah, macam for example that 1 week of just English, and then a few days of Malay, Maths and whatnot. So that's why those marks mengajuk naik. All right, but then to say that again, it does not mean that dari January ke July it shows that your children were not able to do the papers. That's not what it means. It just means that they are now much more ready to sit for the real PSR exam. Okay. Okay, Othman asked, will MOE weigh the marks for the eventual overall grading? Yes, they will. Okay, so apa saja markah yang kami bagi, Indah 100% akan diambil oleh bukan diambil. Indah 100% itu markah the final result. Okay, that's not what it means. Kiranya we have given a student 98%. Okay, for a subject. Okay, let's just use my subject, English. So let's just say I awarded student A with 91% for the paper. That does not mean sudah the marks have been forwarded to MOE. MOE will take that 91 marks as the final result, because at the end of the day, as I said, they will moderate that paper. Okay, they will check whether I mark the paper too harshly ataupun I mark the paper too leniently. So they will juggle lagi di sana tu. Dorang lihat. They will have their own set of moderators and markers to recheck the papers that we submitted together with the marks. Okay, there's another question incoming. Teacher Edwin's just okay. Afex Mom, thank you JPS, especially subject teachers and management, for your hard work and efforts to ensure all the students are fairly assessed. You are welcome, and yes, we share your worry because we are also as worried. Okay, we will, like I said, what Jigsaw Primary School can promise you is that we will promise you that we will make sure that we are getting the best of marks. We are awarding the best of marks for your children. Okay, nothing to do with year 6 PSR or SAM, but will the other years, years 1 to 5, have end of year exam? As for now, we are still waiting for MOE to give us a directive on that. Ada bunyinya macam ada bunyinya macam tak. Because kalau ada, it will have to be done online, and I'm not sure how to go around that. But if sekiranya nada, we will also announce it to you. Year 1 to 5, not PSR.
Okay.
So sekiranya kalau ada, we will tell you. If nada, then we will also tell you lah. But as for now, all the schools in Brunei are still waiting for the directive from MOE. Anything else? Okay, so I will just wait for 1 more minute. Mana tahu ada typing. Okay, I'll wait for 1 minute if ada more questions. Kalau nada, we will end this shortly. So I'll give it 1 minute.
Classes go on as usual for year 1 to year 5.
As for now, classes will still go on from KG to year 5, yeah? Okay, classes will still go on as usual, because even if we are not in a COVID situation, the last day of school will be on the last day of November. So by right, we are still in a schooling period. Okay, so lessons will go on as usual. All right, let me just emphasize that. Kalau sekiranya no news from MOE by the end of November, so I think we can be comforted by the fact that exams are not going to be happening. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I think we can conclude the meeting. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for your attendance. Okay, so good luck, all the best to the students. I hope all the students are listening to us, and hopefully everything will go as smooth as possible, and you will be given the best marks. I mean, you are going to be given the best marks, but we hope for the best. We hope for the best for you in your PSR results. Okay, so on behalf of Ms. Chin, all the best, and be proud of what you have done so far. We all know, the teachers know, and you also know for yourself that you have worked so hard. We all worked so hard this year. Okay. Yes, and then parents, thank you for your continuous support, especially. I know it has been a tough year, but at the end of the day, we are working for the same mission. We are aiming for the same thing, and that is for your child's results. Okay, for the best future of your children. All right, so before I leave, I will pass this to Ms. Jin for her closing remarks. Okay. All right, Ms. Jin.
Thank you, parents, for attending this session. I hope it's clear to you. I just hope the best for every child. And thanks, parents, once again for your continuous support. And stay safe.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Ms. Chen. With that, we will close the session with the recital of Surah Al-As. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. All right. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. If you have any more questions, please contact us. And then please find those papers kalau sekiranya hilang. If ada bis kita kena contact. All right, just inform us. All right, thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.